I was sitting in Dr. Morrison's waiting room when my phone rang. 6 months since Robert's death, and I was there for a routine checkup. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered. "Mom," Angela's voice was cold mechanical. "We're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I've sold your beach house and Dad's truck. Edward and I needed the money. I transferred your share to your account. Goodbye." The line went dead. 45 years of sacrifice, of putting her first, of unconditional love, erased with a 2-minute phone call. The beach house where we'd celebrated 25 anniversaries, where Angela had learned to swim, where Robert had built the porch with his own hands, and Robert's truck, the one that still smelled like his aftershave, the last piece of him I could touch, gone. But instead of crying, I smiled, because in that moment I remembered something I'd forgotten in the fog of grief. 3 days before Robert died, he'd handed me a manila envelope. "Antonia, put this in your dresser drawer. If something happens to me, open it when you're ready, but only when you feel strong enough." Sitting in that waiting room, hearing my daughter's cold dismissal, I suddenly felt very, very strong. Angela thought she'd left me with nothing, but my daughter didn't know everything. The morning Robert died was a Tuesday. September 14th, a perfect autumn morning, I'd found him in the kitchen making French toast, whistling softly. "Good morning, my love," he'd said, kissing my forehead. "Coffee's ready. Cream, no sugar, just like always." We'd sat at our old kitchen table talking about ordinary things. Then Robert had looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "Antonia, you know I love you more than anything in this world, right?" "Robert, what?" "In my desk drawer, there's an envelope. If something happens to me, wait until you're ready, then open it. Promise me you'll wait until you feel really strong." 20 minutes later, he'd collapsed. Heart attack. Massive. He died in my arms on that kitchen floor. At the funeral, Angela had been so attentive. She'd held my arm, handled logistics with Edward, helped me sort through Robert's belongings. "Mom, you should sign these," she'd said 3 months later. "Just formalities. Power of attorney to help handle Dad's estate." I'd signed them without reading. I'd trusted my daughter. That was my first mistake. I went straight home and opened my dresser drawer. There it was, the manila envelope with Robert's neat handwriting. "For Antonia, when you're ready." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter and legal documents. "My dearest Antonia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I need to tell you something I've kept secret our entire marriage. Do you remember when Angela was 12 and my parents lost everything? When Uncle Frank stole their life savings, that's when I decided to build wealth for us, but quietly. So Angela would love us for who we were, not what we had. Every dollar we saved I invested. For 40 years. Antonia, we're not poor. We never were. The beach house is one of 7 properties. There's a 20-story apartment building downtown where Angela and Edward live. I'm the owner. Or rather, you are now. There are investment accounts, stocks, bank accounts you've never heard of. Everything is in Robert Investments, Inc. And you, my darling wife, are the sole owner. If Angela is in trouble, help her. But don't just give her money. Money can fix problems, but it can't fix a person's soul. Only the right lessons can do that. I love you forever, Robert. P.S. The beach house is in a special trust. No one can sell it without your explicit consent. Whatever Angela thinks she's done, well, that's going to be interesting. I looked through the documents with shaking hands. Apartment building, $1.8 million investment portfolio, $2 million bank accounts, $823,750, 4 rental properties, $900,000. Robert, my bus driver husband who clipped coupons and never complained, had made us wealthy, and Angela had just tried to steal what she had no right to touch. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with Robert's documents spread before me, thinking about my daughter. Not the woman who'd called me with ice in her voice, but the little girl who'd cried when her goldfish died, who'd wanted to save all the sad animals, who'd held my hand every day of kindergarten. Where had that Angela gone? At 7 in the morning, I called the lawyer Robert had mentioned, Jonathan Peterson. "Mrs. Brooks, I've been expecting your call. Robert made me promise not to contact you first." I explained about Angela's call about the beach house sale. "That sale is illegal," Peterson said firmly. "The house is in an irrevocable trust. We can void it immediately." "Good. Do it, but quietly. I don't want Angela to know yet." "May I ask why?" "Mr. Peterson, have you ever loved someone so much that you had to hurt them to save them?" There was a pause. "I have a son. Drug problem. The hardest thing I ever did was let him hit bottom. Is that what we're talking about? Yes, exactly that. Over the next hour, we made our plans. Peterson would void the beach house sale, secure my assets research, Edward's finances, and keep everything confidential. This is either the most compassionate or most ruthless thing I've helped a mother do, he said. Neither am I sure which, I admitted. But my husband trusted me to do what's right. After hanging up, I looked at family photos on the wall. Angela at 5 on Robert's lap. Angela at 12 when she'd started having nightmares about being poor. Angela at her wedding wearing the vintage pearls she'd probably sell first chance. Robert, I said to his photo, I hope I'm strong enough. His smile seemed to say, you always were my love. 3 weeks passed. No call, no text, no postcard from Paris. I'd been deleted from Angela's life. Aurora, my neighbor, came by with a casserole. Any word from that daughter of yours? She's in Europe. Aurora snorted. You're up to something. Maybe I am. Good. That girl needs a wake-up call. What Aurora didn't know was that Peterson had called with updates. First, Edward owed $187,000 to various banks. He'd been forging Angela's signature on loans for years, using my apartment building as collateral. When banks discovered Edward didn't own the building, red flags went up. Second, Edward and Angela were burning through money in Paris. 4-star hotels, expensive restaurants, shopping. At this rate, the money would be gone in 3 months. There never was any investment opportunity, was there? I'd asked. No, Mrs. Brooks. Edward was fleeing his debts. Your daughter's money was his escape fund. Does Angela know about the debts? Not yet. According to Peterson's investigator, Edward had started acting strangely, disappearing for hours, meeting a young woman at cafes. The unraveling had begun. The phone rang at 2 a.m, 4 weeks after Angela left. Mom, her voice was small, broken. Angela, are you all right? Mom, can I come home? I'm at JFK Airport. Edward left me in Paris. He's gone. Everything's gone. I'm so sorry, Mom. Every maternal instinct screamed at me to say yes immediately, but I thought of Robert's letter. Easy lessons don't stick. Come home, Angela. The door is unlocked. I'll leave a light on. Thank you. I'll take the bus. It's cheaper, and I don't have much money left. At 6:30 a.m, I heard footsteps on the porch. The door opened. The woman who walked in barely looked like my daughter. She'd lost 15 pounds. Her expensive clothes hung wrinkled on her frame. Gray roots showed in her limp hair. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her expression complete defeat, total despair that broke my heart. Mom, she whispered, dropping her suitcase. She stumbled toward me and collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. What did I do? I held my daughter and stroked her hair like when she was small and had nightmares. Shh, you're home now. You're safe. Even as I comforted her, I knew this was just the beginning. The real lesson hadn't even started yet. I made Angela breakfast while she showered. When she came down wearing my old robe, she looked 16 years old. We sat at the kitchen table in silence. Finally, Angela spoke. Edward left me for a 25-year-old waitress named Colette. He met her the second day we were in Paris. I waited. He lied about everything, Mom. There was no investment. He just wanted to escape his debts. From me. She started crying. He'd been forging my signature on loans for years, using the apartment as collateral. The beach house money was supposed to last a year while he figured out his next move. Do you understand what you did to me? I asked quietly. She looked up, tears streaming. I threw you away, like you were garbage, like 45 years meant nothing. Yes. I don't know how to fix it. Do you want to? More than anything. But Mom, I've ruined everything. The banks are after me for Edward's debts. I lost my job. I have $3,000 left, and you're poor now because of me. I looked at my daughter. She believed we were both destitute. She was genuinely deeply sorry, but sorry wasn't enough. Not yet. Angela, you're going to stay here, but things will be different now. I'll find a job. I'll pay you back. I don't want your money. I want you to understand what you've forgotten. The value of the things you threw away. Not the house. Not the truck. I'm talking about dignity, respect, The kind of love that doesn't come with a price tag. Angela nodded, looking at her cold eggs. Part of me wanted to end this now, to tell her about Robert's fortune, that everything could be fixed with a phone call. But I thought about Robert's words. Money can fix problems, but it can't fix a person's soul. My daughter's soul needed fixing, and that was going to take time. The first week was brutal. Angela went to the bank. The officer explained her situation in cold clinical terms. Mrs. Mitchell, your husband forged your signature on loans totaling $187,000. As his legal spouse, you're liable for 50%. We need $93,500 or we'll pursue legal action. I don't have that kind of money. Then I suggest you hire a lawyer. Criminal fraud charges are likely. She came home pale, trembling. Mom, I could go to prison. I wanted to fix it. Every cell in my body screamed to call Peterson and end this, but I stayed quiet. Angela tried finding work. She applied to 15 architecture firms. All rejected her once they ran credit checks. We can't hire someone with active fraud investigations, one HR director said bluntly. On day 8, she saw an ad cleaning crew needed, night shift, 15-hour. She stared at it for a long time. Then she picked up the phone. Mom, she said that night, I got a job, cleaning offices, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's all I could get. I looked at my daughter, who'd gone to Yale, who'd designed million-dollar buildings, and I nodded. When do you start? Tomorrow night. I waited up for Angela. She came home at 6 a.m, limping, her hands red and raw. How was it? I asked, pouring her coffee. She sat heavily. There's a woman there, Mrs. Johnson. She's 60, been cleaning for 20 years. She taught me everything tonight. What did she teach you? How to scrub toilets efficiently. How to empty trash without making noise. How to... Angela's voice broke. How to be invisible. You're not invisible to me. She looked up with red-rimmed eyes. At 3 a.m, Mrs. Johnson asked me something. She said there are 2 kinds of people who do this work. People who never had opportunities and people who destroyed the opportunities they had. Which are you? What did you say? I told her the truth, that I had everything, a family who loved me, a stable home, an inheritance, and I destroyed it all following a worthless man. What did she say? Angela smiled sadly. She laughed and said, well, honey, at least you know exactly why you're here. That puts you 1 step ahead of most people. 4 weeks passed. Angela worked 6 nights a week. She lost more weight but grew stronger somehow, more present. She started contributing. Mom, here's $200 for groceries. It's not much, but you don't have to. Yes, I do. I need to contribute to this household, to feel like I'm not just a burden. I watched her change. She stopped wearing makeup. She cooked dinner before work. She asked about my day, really listened to the answers. One morning I found her crying at the kitchen table holding a photo of Robert. I miss Dad so much, she whispered. And I can't stop thinking about what he'd say if he saw me now. What do you think he'd say? That he's disappointed, that I threw away everything he and you built. I sat beside her. Your father loved you more than anything. He'd want you to learn from this. Learn what? That I'm a failure. No, that you're stronger than you thought. Angela looked at me with something new in her eyes. Not desperation anymore. Something... 6 weeks after Angela returned, she was cleaning out boxes in the garage, trying to help, to be useful. Mom, she walked in holding a manila envelope. I found this in Dad's old toolbox. It has your name on it. My heart stopped. The second envelope. I'd forgotten Robert had hidden one for Angela to find. Let me see. Inside was a key and a short note. Antonia, if Angela found this, it means she's trying to help. That's a good sign. This key opens safety deposit box 247 at Central Bank. Inside are family jewelry pieces about $200,000 worth. Use your judgment. Remember, don't let money solve what the soul needs to fix. Love, Robert. Angela read over my shoulder. Safety deposit box. Dad had a safety deposit box. Apparently. Should we go see what's there? I saw the hope in her eyes. The desperate calculation. $200,000 could solve her problems. Tomorrow, I said. We'll go tomorrow. That night I called Peterson. The jewelry, she found the note. What will you do? Let her make her own choice. At the bank we opened box 247. Angela gasped. pearls, emeralds, diamonds. Pieces from Robert's family jewelry he'd bought me over the years. The appraiser's note said $195,000. Mom, Angela's hands shook. This could pay off my debts. Give you your life back. These are family memories. But we need, she stopped, took a breath. No, not we need. I need. This is my problem, not yours. What are you saying? Angela closed the box slowly. These belong to Grandma Brooks. This necklace Dad gave it to you on your 20th anniversary. I remember because I was 10 and I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Angela, if I sell these, what am I really doing? I'm erasing more family history to fix problems I created. When does it stop? I stayed silent, letting her think. I'll sell 3 small pieces, she finally said. The ones without strong memories. That'll get me about $45,000. Enough for a lawyer to fight the fraud charges. The rest stays in the family where it belongs. I looked at my daughter. 6 weeks ago, she would have sold everything without hesitation. Are you sure? No, but I'm learning that being sure isn't the same as being right. I'd rather make the hard choice than the easy one. 2 months and disaster struck. Angela fell off her bicycle coming home from work. She'd sold her car weeks ago. Her right wrist broke. The emergency room bill $8,000 without insurance. She couldn't work for 6 weeks. No income. The lawyer needed $50,000 she didn't have. Court date in 2 weeks. I found her on her bedroom floor on day 3, curled up, barely responsive. Angela, I can't do this anymore, Mom. I can't. I'm going to prison. I destroyed your life. Everything's broken, and I can't fix it. That night she didn't eat, didn't speak, just lay in bed staring at the ceiling. At 3 a.m. I sat beside her, sleeping form phone in hand. I had Peterson's number pulled up. 1 call, just 1 call, and I could fix everything. My finger hovered over the screen. Robert, I whispered. Am I wrong? Is this too much? Am I destroying her to teach her a lesson? Am I being cruel instead of kind? I was about to press dial when Angela stirred. Mom, her eyes opened. What are you doing? Nothing. She sat up, seeing my phone. Were you about to call someone? I was thinking about it. To help me. I couldn't lie. Yes. Angela took my hand. Don't. Angela, you're suffering. I know, but Mom, this is the suffering I earned. This is the consequence of my choices. If you fix this for me now, what will I have learned? That there's always someone to rescue me, that actions don't have real consequences. But the cost is mine to pay. These past 2 months have been hell, but they're also the most honest months of my life. For the first time, I understand what things actually cost, what they're actually worth. She squeezed my hand. Mom, having you beside me is enough. That's what I lost when I left, and that's what I found again. Don't take that lesson away from me by solving this with money. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She wasn't the broken woman who'd arrived 2 months ago. She was someone new, someone stronger. I put my phone down. The next morning, Peterson called me, but it was Angela who answered my phone. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Jonathan Peterson. I have news about your case. Angela's face went white. My case. We found evidence that Edward forged your signature. Bank security footage, handwriting analysis. You're not liable for his debts. The charges against you are being dropped. What, how? Someone hired our firm to investigate. I'm not at liberty to say who, but you're free, Ms. Mitchell. Completely free. Angela hung up slowly. She looked at me with dawning comprehension. Mom, who hired that lawyer? I don't know what you're talking about. Mom, I met her eyes. Does it matter who helped? The point is you didn't know help was coming. You were willing to face the consequences anyway. That's what matters. You've been helping me this whole time, haven't you? Well, I thought we were both struggling. We have been struggling, just with different things. Mom, please, I need to know. Are we really as poor as I thought? I stood up. Get dressed. We're going to see Mr. Peterson. It's time you knew everything. Peterson's office was downtown in one of those old buildings with marble floors and high ceilings. Angela sat beside me in the waiting room, her broken wrist in a cast, her face pale with anxiety. Mrs. Brooks, Ms. Mitchell, please come in. Peterson's office was lined with law books. He gestured to 2 chairs across from his massive desk. Ms. Mitchell, let me first say the criminal charges against you have been formally dropped. The evidence of forgery is irrefutable. Angela exhaled shakily. Thank you, but I still don't understand who hired you. I certainly couldn't afford. That's why we're here, I said quietly. Mr. Peterson, please show my daughter the documents. He opened a thick folder and slid papers across the desk. Ms. Mitchell, these are property deeds, investment portfolios, and bank statements, all belonging to Robert Investments Incorporated. Angela scanned the first page. Her eyes widened. This is the apartment building where Edward and I lived, worth $1.8 million. Who owns? She stopped, looked at the name. Robert Investments, your father's company, Peterson said. Or more accurately, your mother's company now. She's the sole owner. I don't understand. Peterson continued sliding documents. 6 additional properties worth approximately $3 million combined. Investment portfolio currently valued at $4.2 million. 3 bank accounts totaling $23,750. Angela's hands trembled as she looked through the papers. This can't be real. Dad was a bus driver. We clipped coupons. Your father was a bus driver, I said softly. He was also a brilliant investor. For 40 years, he took every dollar we saved and multiplied it. Quietly, secretly. But why? Why keep it secret? I took a breath. Do you remember when you were 12, when your grandparents lost everything? When Uncle Frank stole their savings, of course. You had nightmares for months. You'd wake up crying, terrified we'd lose our house, that we'd end up with nothing. Angela nodded slowly, tears forming. Your father saw how that fear affected you. He worried that if you knew we had money, you'd either become obsessed with it or afraid of losing it. He wanted you to love us for who we were, not what we had. So he became secretly wealthy and told no one. He told me, right before he died. I pulled out Robert's letter. Read this. Angela read with shaking hands. When she finished, she looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You've known this whole time. Yes. When I called you from that waiting room, when I told you I'd sold the beach house and Dad's truck, you already knew we were rich. Yes. Her voice rose. When I came back from Paris, broken and desperate, when I was working night shifts, cleaning toilets, when I thought we were both destitute, and it was my fault, you knew. Yes. Angela stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Why? Why did you let me suffer like that? Why didn't you tell me? I stood too, meeting her eyes. Because you needed to learn something money couldn't teach you. What lesson could possibly be worth the lesson about what you threw away? My voice came out louder than I intended. Peterson quietly excused himself, leaving us alone. Angela, when you called me that day, you didn't just take my money. You took my dignity. You spoke to me like I was a burden. Like 45 years of love meant nothing. Like I was garbage to be disposed of. I know that now. No, you know it now because you've spent 2 months learning what it feels like to have nothing, to be treated like you're worthless, to understand that respect and love aren't things you can buy or sell. Angela's face crumpled. I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. I can forgive you taking my house. I can forgive you selling your father's truck, but I cannot forgive how you made me feel, how you treated me like I was nothing. Then why are you telling me this now? Why not just let me keep thinking we were poor? Because 3 nights ago I sat beside your bed ready to end this, ready to call Peterson and fix everything, and you woke up. I remember. And you told me not to. You said you needed to face the consequences. You said you didn't want an easy way out. That's when I knew. Knew what? That you'd finally learned the lesson. Not about money, about value, about what really matters. Angela sat back down slowly. She looked at the documents spread across the desk, then at me. How long were you planning to let this go on? As long as it took. What if I hadn't learned? What if I just stayed broken and bitter? Then I would have helped you anyway. But you wouldn't have really changed. You would have just been the same person with money again. You gambled with my life. No, I gave you a chance to save your own soul. Angela was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Tell me something. The lawyer fees. the investigation into Edward. That wasn't cheap. You paid for all that, didn't you? Yes. So you were helping me the whole time, just secretly. I was protecting you from legal consequences you didn't deserve, but I wasn't saving you from the consequences you did deserve. There's a difference. What consequences did I deserve? The consequence of understanding what you'd lost. The consequence of learning that people aren't disposable. That love has to be earned and maintained, not just expected. Angela looked down at her cast. These 2 months, they were hell, Mom. I know. But they were also necessary, weren't they? Yes. If you'd just given me money, told me everything was fine, what would I have learned? That there's always someone to rescue you. That actions don't have real consequences. That money solves everything. Angela laughed bitterly. And I would have done it again. Maybe not to you, but to someone else. I would have kept being that person who treated people like transactions. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Johnson, the woman I work with, she told me something last week. She said, honey, the people who really change aren't the ones who hit bottom and get pulled up immediately. They're the ones who sit at the bottom long enough to understand why they fell. She sounds wise. She is. And she's right. I needed to sit at the bottom. I needed to understand that I didn't fall because of bad luck or Edward's betrayal. I fell because of my own choices. Angela wiped her eyes and looked at me directly. Can I ask you something? Anything. That night when I woke up and you had your phone, you said you were about to call someone, but you didn't. Why? I sat back, choosing my words carefully. Because you said something that made me realize the lesson had worked. What did I say? You said having me beside you was enough, that that's what you'd lost and found again. And you begged me not to take that lesson away by solving things with money. I meant it. I know. And that's when I understood something your father was trying to teach both of us. This was never about punishing you, Angela. It was about saving you. Saving me from what? From becoming someone who measures everything in dollars. From losing the ability to see value in things that can't be bought. I paused. From ending up alone and bitter at 71, wondering why having money didn't make you happy. Angela stared at me. You're talking about yourself. No, I'm talking about what I could have become if I'd handled this differently. If I'd just thrown money at you, enabled your worst instincts, taught you that love means never letting people face consequences. But you didn't do that. Because your father gave me a gift in that letter. He gave me permission to do the hardest thing a mother can do. What's that? Let you fall, let you hurt, let you discover your own strength instead of always leaning on mine. Angela was crying openly now. I hated you sometimes these past 2 months, when I was scrubbing toilets at 3 a.m., when my hands were raw, when I thought we were both suffering because of me. I hated you for not being more upset, for not falling apart, for being so calm. I know, but you were teaching me something, weren't you? You were showing me what strength actually looks like. Not having money. Not having success, just having dignity, having principles, having love that doesn't waver even when everything else does. Yes, I'm not sure I would have been strong enough to do what you did. You will be someday. When you have children of your own, you'll understand. Love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's fierce. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it means watching someone you love suffer, because that's the only way they'll learn. Angela stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. So what happens now? That's up to you. What do you mean? You have choices now. You could quit your cleaning job, move into a nice apartment, live off the family money, go back to architecture. Is that what you want me to do? It doesn't matter what I want. What do you want? Angela turned from the window. I want to keep my job. Not forever, but for now. Mrs. Johnson and the other women there, they've taught me things no architecture degree ever did. About dignity and hard work, about finding meaning in what you do, not just in what you earn. You don't have to. I know. That's exactly why I need to. Mom, if I quit the second I find out we have money, what was the point of everything? I'd just be running away from discomfort again like I always have. I felt something break open in my chest. Pride, relief, joy. There's something else I want to do, Angela continued. The beach house. Dad's beach house. I want to turn it into something meaningful. Like what? A temporary shelter. For women leaving situations like mine. Domestic violence, financial abuse, women who need a safe place to figure out their next step. I'd run it. Use my experience to help others. Angela, I know what it's like now, Mom. To feel worthless. To feel like you've lost everything. To be so broken you can't see a way forward. If I can help even one woman feel less alone in that, wouldn't that make everything I went through worth something? I walked over and hugged my daughter. Really hugged her for the first time since before Robert died. Your father would be so proud, I whispered. Do you think so? I know so. This is exactly what he hoped for. We stood there for a moment, then Angela pulled back. There's one more thing. What, Mom? I want to pay you back, not the money. I mean, yes, eventually I'll contribute financially to the household, but I want to pay you back for these 2 months, for the lesson you gave me. How? By making sure I never forget it. By living differently. By treating people treating you with the respect and love you deserve. Every single day. The beach house looked different now. The old porch where Robert used to read still stood, but there were new additions. A playground for children. A vegetable garden. A sign that read Robert's Haven, a place of new beginnings. Inside, 15 women and their children were starting over, learning job skills, healing from trauma, planning their futures. And Angela was there every day running it all. I'd come to visit on a Saturday morning. I found her in the kitchen with 3 women teaching them how to make Robert's French toast. The secret is the cinnamon, she was saying. My dad always said she saw me and smiled. Mom, you made it. Wouldn't miss it. After breakfast, we walked on the beach. Just the 2 of us. How's Mrs. Johnson? I asked. Good. I still work with her 2 nights a week. She says I don't need to anymore, but I want to. It keeps me grounded. And the women here, how are they doing? Sarah got a job as a receptionist. Maria's kid started school. Jennifer. Angela's voice caught. Jennifer reminds me so much of who I was. So sure the right man would fix everything. So willing to throw away everything stable for a fantasy. You're helping her. I'm trying, mostly by telling her my story, about how I threw away the most valuable thing I had, my mother's love for money and a man who didn't deserve me. We walked in silence for a while, listening to the waves. Mom, can I tell you something? Always. A woman came to Haven last week. She'd just left her husband, lost everything. She was sitting in that same chair where I broke down a year ago, and she said, I have nothing left. What did you tell her? I told her that's not true. That she has herself. That she has the chance to become someone new, someone stronger. And I told her about you. About me. About how the greatest gift you ever gave me wasn't money or comfort or an easy life. It was the gift of letting me discover my own strength. My eyes filled with tears. I told her, Angela continued, that she might feel abandoned right now. She might feel like the people who should rescue her aren't there. But sometimes love looks like absence. Sometimes it looks like letting someone sit in the dark until they find their own light. What did she say? She cried. Then she said, I wish I had a mother like that. And I told her, you do now. We all take care of each other here. That evening, back at home, Aurora came over for tea. You know, she said, the whole neighborhood talks about you too. I can imagine. Half think you're a saint. The other half think you're the cruelest mother who ever lived. Which half are you in? Aurora sipped her tea thoughtfully. I think you're both. I think you loved your daughter enough to let her hate you for a while. That takes a special kind of strength. Or a special kind of crazy. Maybe. But look at her now. Look at what she's become. Would she be that person if you'd just given her money and fixed everything? No. Then you did the right thing, even if it was hard. Especially because it was hard. After Aurora left, I went to Robert's photo on the mantel. I did this every night, had a little conversation with him before bed. We did it, I said softly. Our daughter is okay. More than okay. She's strong. She's compassionate. She understands what really matters. I could almost hear him reply, I never doubted you, my love. You were always the strong one. I miss you every day, I know, but I'm still with you. In every decision you make, in every lesson you teach, in the love you show our daughter. Angela came in then, catching me talking to the photo. Still have your nightly chats with Dad? Always. She came and stood beside me, looking at Robert's smiling face. You know what I realized today? What did the beach house, the truck, the money? Dad didn't leave us those things because they were valuable. He left them as tools. Tools to teach me what I needed to learn. Yes. He knew, didn't he? Somehow he knew I'd mess up. He knew I'd need this lesson. Your father knew you were human. He knew you'd make mistakes. He just wanted to make sure you had the chance to learn from them. Angela put her arm around my shoulders. I'm going to make sure his grandchildren, if I'm lucky enough to have them, someday know who their grandfather really was. Not a bus driver, not a secret millionaire, but a man who understood that the best inheritance isn't money, it's wisdom. He'd like that. We stood there together, mother and daughter, looking at the photo of the man who'd loved us both enough to trust us with his final lesson. Justice, I'd learned, isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about education, about giving someone the gift of consequences, the chance to become better, the opportunity to discover their own strength. And love, real love, isn't about making everything easy. It's about knowing when to hold on and when to let go, when to comfort and when to challenge, when to rescue and when to watch from a distance, ready to catch them if they truly fall, but willing to let them stumble, if that's what it takes to help them learn to walk on their own. Angela had thought I'd given her nothing when she needed everything, but I'd given her something far more valuable than money. I'd given her the chance to save herself, and in doing so she'd become the person both Robert and I always knew she could be.